Hello and welcome to all. Who wouldn't like to one day feel the thrill of winning several million euros in the lottery? Actually, for the few people who do, hitting the jackpot can be a lot less fun than you might think. So, imagine that a woman who, despite her great generosity, found herself totally ruined and worse, in debt only 8 years after winning the lottery, or that a man, declared lottery winner, never received a penny after losing his ticket. That would be really incredible, wouldn't it? Well, settle down, to find out these stories and more in the stupidest lottery winners. While suddenly receiving a lot of money is certainly a gift from heaven, some people lose all their winnings in less time than it takes. And this is the case of Janet Leigh. Originally from South Korea, Janet Leigh won $18 million, or more than 16 million euros, in the lottery in 1993. Once she became a millionaire, the first thing this woman decided to do was obviously to quit her job and buy a luxury house. Next, Janet undertook a series of donations rather than a series of expenditures. Thus, she gave most of her fortune to associations and political movements, notably supporting Bill Clinton and Al Gore. In addition to these charities, Janet had set aside some of her money for luxury items. After all, she could afford it. Unfortunately, she couldn't manage her money in the long term. She rented luxury cars and took out a lot of loans. As a result, in 2001, Janet sold all her rights to her future annual lottery payments and declared bankruptcy with minus 650 euros in reserves and debt of almost 2.3 million euros. Sharon Turak came from a very disadvantaged background. On the day she won about 10 million euros in the Canadian lottery, Sharon bit more than she could chew. Spending lavishly, Sharon acquired a large house and luxury cars. She also replaced her wardrobe with designer clothes, stayed in palaces, and attended luxurious parties. Unfortunately, she didn't realize her crazy spending in time. The former millionaire admits that when she checked the balance of her bank account from time to time, it always seemed to her that there were enough zeros. Yet very quickly all her earnings had evaporated. Since then, she has been living in a modest apartment that she rents and takes the bus to work. Today, Sharon and her husband Vinny are trying to instill in their children the value of work and money earned with dignity. In 2002, Andrew Jackson Whitaker Jr. became the biggest winner in the history of Powerball. He won the astronomical sum of 315 million or 290 million euros. Having opted for the one-off payment, he received the equivalent of 156 million euros. Before winning this prize, he was already a successful businessman. But when he suddenly became even richer, things went wrong. After starting to build churches and set up a foundation, he turned to riskier hobbies. Andrew started handing out money at every turn, such as offering the employee who sold him the winning ticket a car and a house. He always carried around a briefcase containing more than 460,000 euros, which, by the way, was stolen one day. Andrew then fell prey to a whole series of scams and lawsuits. And as if all this misfortune was not enough, his daughter, to whom he gave almost 2,000 euros of pocket money per week, finally died. So, in 2007, barely 6 years after he earned it, all the money had disappeared. This man who was a good father lost everything. In 25 years of marriage, Thomas Rossi never quarreled with his wife. Just when he thought he had found the perfect love, his wife Denise suddenly asked for a divorce, hoping that it would happen sooner rather than later. The reason? Well, on December 28, 1996, 11 days before she filed for divorce, Denise Rossi won the equivalent of $1.2 million in the California lottery. Of course, Thomas didn't know this at the time because this fact was not mentioned in the divorce petition. Once he became aware of the scam, Thomas sued his wife for concealment of his assets. Ironically, all of the lottery money went to the husband, every last penny. The judge decided because Denise said she hid her lottery winnings, so her husband couldn't get his hands on them. I guess her selfish plan didn't work out as planned. In the end, Denise Rossi lost her money and her husband. Before continuing this video, here is the question of the day: in what year did the first national lottery in France appear? Is it? Option A. In 1933. Option B. In 1943. Option C. In 1953. Write the right answer in the comments and we'll see at the end of the video if you were right. The American Evelyn Adams is probably the luckiest woman in the world, but also the least intelligent. And for good reason. She won the lottery not once but twice, in 1985 and 1986. Nevertheless, her €4.9 million vanished in no time. As soon as she became a millionaire, Evelyn gave money to all the people around her who asked for it. A victim of her generosity, Evelyn was ruined by her totally reckless spending and ended up bitterly regretting it. However, if she found herself penniless, it was mainly because she was totally addicted to gambling. And this time, her luck ran out. She wasted a large part of her money on slot machines in Atlantic City casinos without ever winning. Soon Evelyn lost everything, so she lives in a trailer. David Lee Edwards is a man who hasn't always had it easy. One day, in 2001, luck finally smiled on him when he played the American lottery. He had won no less than $27 million in Powerball. However, it took the American only 5 years to waste his fortune and end up living in a garage box. But how did he get there, would you say? In fact, shortly after winning the lottery, Edwards had moved to a beautiful property in Florida with a private tennis court. He also bought himself a private jet, racehorses, and multiple luxury cars including a Lamborghini Diablo. Money had clearly gone to his head, making him lose his sense of reality. In the first 3 months alone after winning the jackpot, he had spent $3 million. And by 2006, he had nothing left. Yet, when the check was handed over, he was speaking responsibly, saying that he would not buy cars or houses to make his money last. We can say that this is a failure. Edwards then died alone, in front of some friends' money. Martin and Kay Todd had achieved a feat that most people could only dream of, winning the lottery jackpot. Unfortunately, they will never enjoy it, having lost their ticket. Indeed, it was only by watching a lottery call on television to find the big winners that they were able to recognize their numbers. This was followed by a long search in their apartment for the ticket but without success. The couple did, however, approach the British lottery operator, and after an investigation, it was concluded that it was indeed the couple who had validated the ticket. However, since the players have a maximum of 30 days to report the loss of a ticket, the operator, obliged to follow its rules, was unable to pay the jackpot to the two young Britons. What was supposed to be a fairy tale turned into a nightmare for Martin and Kay Todd, who described the experience as the cruelest torture imaginable. Surely no one would like to be in their shoes. We would tend to believe that winning millions in the lottery is an incredible opportunity. Yet many winners begin a veritable descent into hell in the years following their lucky day. At least that's what happened to Callie Rogers. At the age of 16, Callie became the youngest winner of the British lottery, winning £1.9 million £2.2 million. In less than 9 years, she squandered her winnings on alcohol, cosmetic surgery, and the purchase of several houses, until she had nothing left. Ruined, her beautiful life was quickly aborted and her various deviances finally led her to a deep depression. Today, Callie Rogers is back in control of her life. Accompanied by her son Blake and her husband Pau Penny, Callie lives modestly in England and says she is happier than she has ever been. Billy Bob Carroll Jr. was a man who lived humbly with his family. In June 1997, this man must have believed that his prayers had been answered when he won the equivalent of €28.5 million in the Texas lottery. However, that was just the beginning of the nightmare. When he pocketed the large sum of money, Billy seemed to have handled her money very well. He had simply quit his job and, sometime later, traveled to Hawaii with his family. However, Billy soon began to be solicited on all sides and many people took advantage of his generosity. He had also lost a lot of money to a company that promised winners who opted for an annual payment over 20 years a large amount in return for their annual check. A year later, Billy separated from his wife. By this time, he was already almost broke. After losing his money and his marriage, Billy was found dead. He reportedly told his financial advisor shortly before his disappearance, "Winning the lottery is the worst thing that ever happened to me." In 2002, 19-year-old Michael Carroll from the UK won the €15 million lottery. But this sudden fortune did not make his life any easier, quite the contrary. It combined mismanagement, stupid, and impulsive spending, and vices of all kinds. Michael spent nearly $4 million on offering money to acquaintances, $1.2 million on gambling, and almost as much on a football club. And that's not all. He He also spent nearly €1 million on high-tech gadgets, €500,000 on cars, €800,000 on furnishing his house, and the rest of his money was wasted on parties, illegal substances, jewelry, and luxury holidays. He had even made life impossible for his neighbors, buying 1.2 hectares of fields behind their house to hold car demolition competitions. The nuisances were such that the local council had to set up a hotline for complaints about him. Because of the hellish whirlwind he lived in, Michael Carroll ended up ruined and in court. Today he lives from a modest job as a painter. Now it's your turn to comment on which of these lottery winners is, in your opinion, the most stupid? Otherwise, the first national lottery in France appeared in 1933. I hope that many of you have found the right answer.